Hello everyone, it is so fabulous to see you. Today I'm going to be answering lots of questions that you guys asked me on Instagram about farming and yarn and fiber and all that nerdy stuff that I could talk about for hours. There's a goat. Oh my god, a fly is one in my eye. My goat is trying to take out my tripod. No. Okay, time to dive into all of your questions. The gnats want to be in my mouth and eyes. So general, but I want to know how everything is done. I'm so fascinated in regards to making yarn and the whole process. Okay, I send all my alpaca fiber to a mill, so I've never really processed alpaca fiber myself, but the sheep wool, I have done that. So I've been down that road before. First, you get the animal, then you have to shear the animal, then you kind of have to like pick through all the wool and get rid of like all the poopy parts. Then you wash the wool. I washed my wool in like a double wash, so I had one wash of like boiling hot water, and then like I had another wash of like boiling hot water, and then you wring them out, you let them dry, pick through all the fiber kind of like this, get rid of the loose whatevers. Then it looks very like fluffy, and then you have these little brushes. They look like little dog brushes called carders, and you card through all the wool. After you card the wool, then you'll have these little things. They look like little clouds. They're called nests, and you have all these little like donut looking pieces of the wool. And then with that, then you spin that. I like to do a 2-ply skein, so I'll spin one spindle full of yarn, and then I'll spin another spindle full of yarn, and then I'll take those 2 spindles and then I'll spin those together, so that way I have 2-ply yarn. But wait, we're not done there. Then you have to wash that yarn again, and then after that, then maybe you want to dye it or not dye it or whatever. That's something that I kind of want to get into this year, is like doing natural dye. I would like to get into that. Yeah, and that's how you make yarn. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Are alpacas and sheep only sheared in the summer or any month of the year? And in the summer, is their hair shorter or does it always grow the same? So the answer to that question is I shear my alpacas and my sheep once a year. I shear them in May, kind of right before it starts to get like super hot. So that way they have their little summer haircuts and they stay nice and cool in the summer. Also with alpacas, you can give an alpaca a good haircut and a bad haircut. Depending on how well they were sheared, how nicely they were sheared, that's gonna set them up for how cute their fiber grows back for the winter months. I got some goats and I don't have to shear them. One less thing for me to do. Did you grow up in a farming community, or did you just want it and got it? No, I did not grow up farming. I mean, we did have chickens and stuff when I was growing up, but I grew up in the suburbs, and then I feel like the farm life just kind of chose me, and I've only lived on this property and had my farm for like 3 years. Just kind of like organically happened, and like now I'm here. What's the true cost of running a farm this size? It's my dream, but it feels unattainable. Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, like there are some things in farming that you need to invest in. Maybe you need to invest in property, maybe you need to invest in machinery, but if you just want a little homestead for yourself, there's a lot that you can do with like not a ton of land. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube who only have 1 acre or 2 acres, and they do a lot with their land, planting apple and plum trees, having a garden. Like there's lots of little stepping stones that you can take if you're interested in farming and homesteading. Also, a lot of farmers that I know are like incredibly thrifty. My biggest advice for anyone who's looking to get into like homesteading or farming or anything like that is to just make friends with other farmers. Make friends with farmers, and there's a lot that you can do with just a little bit of space. Don't put yourself in a corner thinking, oh, I need this amount of acres to have a farm, I need this to have a farm. And you'll be surprised with what you can do with like not a lot of property. Do you prefer the look of knitwear or crochet items better? Love you, and love you too. That's actually a very good question. I've been thinking about this a lot actually. I love the look of knit. I love it, like I really do. And I love the look of crochet. I do think that in a lot of instances, crochet can look very tacky, where I feel like it's a little harder to make knitwear look tacky. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. A lot of times crochet can just like lean more towards the tacky side of things. So when I do see a beautiful pattern, beautifully done, beautifully crocheted, like that, ooh, you know what I mean? Gets me freaking going. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't know. Next question, what do you need to start spinning? Oh girl, there's lots of different avenues you can take. I'm gonna tell you how I started spinning and then I'll give you some other alternatives. Well, obviously, I had sheep. I had the fiber, so I'm like, okay, well, like, I guess I gotta learn how to do this, which I've always wanted to learn how to spin yarn. I had the sheep, I got the sheep sheared because you're supposed to get them sheared every year. And then the first year I lived here, I completely processed the fiber myself with the help of Johnny. And then it came to the point where I'm like, okay, like time to learn how to spin. I met a woman who owns like a local yarn spinning shop and she's really cool and she taught me how to spin. And after my first spinning learning session, I knew that I wanted to purchase a spinning wheel. Purchasing a spinning wheel is a big purchase. They're expensive. It was like $800 for my spinning wheel. I saved up the money. I knew that I wanted it, and I knew that after my first spinning lesson, I couldn't go home and just like not spin yarn. Like I caught the bug. I caught the itch. Now I send my sheep fiber to a mill. They turn it into roving, and then I spin with the roving. So maybe if you like don't want to go that hardcore, if you're not ready for like a spinning wheel yet, they have these like spinning like tops. They look like a little top that you would play like jacks with. You like spin the little top and then you can like spin the wool like right on the little top. I don't know what it's called. So that's like a good way to like dip your toes into it and get into it without having to like buy an entire spinning wheel. But in regards to like where you get the fiber to spin the yarn with, Facebook Marketplace, people. Don't eat the barn. Don't eat the barn. That's not nice. You know, don't eat the barn. Go on Facebook Marketplace and look up raw sheep fiber, raw sheep wool, something like that. And there's lots of people who have sheep that shear their sheep, but they don't do anything with it. They put it on Facebook Marketplace. So you can go that route, or you could just purchase something called roving. Your local alpaca farm or sheep farm or fiber farm will have roving in their shop if you just ask them about it. Or they'll point you in the right direction of where you can find it. But if you want to spin and you don't want to like process all your own fiber, raise your own animals, get roving. Roving is what you use to spin basically. So you can get a little bit of roving, probably you can get it online, and your little spindle, that would be a good place to start. Or you could just like full send it like me. Actually, I think my spinning wheel is like the most expensive thing that I own. Who needs a Chanel purse when you could just buy a spinning wheel? Are you freaking kidding me? Moving on, let's see. Do you make skeins that have like a bunch of different textures and colors in one? The short answer is no. I think it looks tacky, and I just don't personally grab for that sort of yarn when I'm making something. I've bought a lot of yarn and it's just like sitting in my yarn collection because like I don't use it. Let's be real. I see like all those videos of those people who make like all the different colored yarn and they put like freaking glitter and straw and like all this random shit in it, and it's like, yarn doesn't have to be that complicated. I feel like it's just for the TikTok likes. How much time out of each of your days do you dedicate towards your lovely animals? It just like kind of depends, but I have a routine. I have a routine down for like the day-to-day things that need to be done. This is a good question. How long is the process of shearing, cleaning, spinning into yarn, and creating a piece? The first year I had my farm, I did all of the processing, just me and Johnny, and that took like a year for 3 sheep to process like all the fiber and stuff. Now that wasn't like an everyday thing, that was kind of just like when I had time to do it, but yeah, it like took a year to do. There's a lot of steps and each step takes a long time. So sometimes I'd be stuck on one step of the process for like a month, you know what I mean? When I send my fiber and my wool to a mill, I get it turned into roving. I don't get it turned into yarn so they can ship it back to me faster. In regards to spinning yarn, how long does it take to spin a skein of yarn? It kind of depends the thickness of the yarn and also how big the skein is going to be. Obviously, if you're making a bigger skein but thinner yarn, it's going to take more time. But when I first was spinning yarn, it would take me like an entire day just to like spin one skein of yarn. But now like I'm cooking, I can only really measure time in episodes of Vanderpump Rules. So it'll take me like 3 episodes of Vanderpump Rules to start to finish complete a skein of yarn. So yeah, it's like 3 hours. I mean, it's a labor of love and it's something that I deeply enjoy, and it feeds my soul so much to spin yarn, honestly. And it's interesting because like you can see your progress through each yarn skein so well. I can tell from even now, skein to skein, the little differences of my progress of me getting better at spinning yarn. So that's deeply satisfying as well. Can we see a day in the life of taking care of these babies? I'm so curious. I don't know, I kind of think that my routine is like boring and mundane, but maybe that's just because this is my life. And if I make a day in the life, it's gonna be like, hey, here's me snuggling with my animals, now I'm crocheting, now I'm watching Vanderpump Rules, now I'm drinking wine. That's the day. How did you get into being a farm girl? I want animals one day. Okay, so basically I was living in California. I fell in love with crocheting. Ooh, there's a hawk, you motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here, chickens. Everyone, hide. Hide from the hawk. Where are the crows? I always say that crochet is like the gateway drug for me. I started off with crocheting, fell in love with that, and then the universe was like sending me signals. Like I feel like everywhere I went, I saw alpaca things everywhere, and like I just started to like become obsessed with alpacas and their fiber, and they're so cute, and it's like, okay, maybe one day I can own these. And then it's like flash forward a couple years later, it's like, oh my god, like all of those cups in Target that had alpacas on them like is kind of like the catalyst of like what led me here today, which is like kind of weird to think about. When we bought the farm, the sheep kind of came with the farm because they were so old, so I'm like, okay, well if I can take care of sheep, I can take care of other animals. Cut to, we get chickens. Okay, well if I can, you know, sit here and baby these little chicks and wipe their little poopy booties and take care of these chickens, like, okay, maybe I can get another animal. Then we got cats. Okay, if I can take care of cats and rehabilitate cats to my home, maybe I can get alpacas. I did so much research about alpacas. I started working on an alpaca farm, like all that kind of stuff, because I really wanted to make sure that like I knew what I was doing, you know what I mean? And if I could take care of alpacas, you know, these goats really needed a home. Okay, cool. I know that I could take care of all these animals, so sure, I'll take on your goats too. Listening to the sounds of the universe sounds so woo-woo, but that's the answer. How to start. Just how to start. I don't know what she wants to start. How do you start? I was actually on a podcast called Hot Artsy Girls, and the host, Natalie, go follow her, she's fabulous. She brought up that like I'm an artist in so many different mediums. Yeah, now crochet and fiber is like my primary thing, but like it took a lot of playing and learning to get here. You know, painting and baking and sculpting, making jewelry, making prosthetics. Like expand your art repertoire as much as possible, because all of the different mediums that you play with and you allow yourself to maybe fumble at or get really good at, all of that is going to just make you a more well-rounded artist and really show you where your true passions lie. In the great words of Shakira from the movie Zootopia, try everything. I love that movie. I watch that movie at least 3 times a year. Are blends or pure yarns better in your opinion? I'm looking for the ultimate all garments fiber. So basically, pure yarn is yarn that's just made with one single fiber. So it's either wool or alpaca or acrylic. And a yarn blend is when you mix multiple different fibers together. Maybe you mix bamboo and acrylic, or wool and alpaca, or alpaca and acrylic. That is a mix blend yarn. I guess the answer is I don't really think there's one end all be all perfect yarn, because everything that you make is gonna require things to drape differently or have different properties, and I would say be flexible with your yarn choices. And you might choose a yarn and it sucks and you hate it, and then you learn to never use that yarn again, like me and velvet yarn. I've never made velvet yarn. Oh, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do to their face. I hate velvet yarn. And you know, I tried to make multiple garments and multiple things with velvet yarn, and it all turned out looking like poopy caca, and now I will never ever use velour velvet yarn ever again. Do you gotta wash them? To them, are you referring to the alpacas and the sheep? Because I don't really bathe them. Like, I'll hose down the alpacas just like because they're hot. I'm not really doing that for like cleaning purposes. Alpacas actually take dust baths. They like roll around on the ground like your dog would, and that's how they clean and maintain their fiber. And then the sheep have lanolin on their wool, so that's what protects their wool. I send the raw fiber off to a mill, and then the mill does all the washing and stuff like that, but I don't like wash or like bathe or shampoo my animals or anything like that. And also, if your question was in regards to me washing myself, the answer is barely. Do you keep/use the yarn? Yes, I do keep the yarn. Yes, I do use the yarn. Right now I'm kind of hoarding the yarn. I would like to sell the yarn. That answers that question. Moving on. How much does it cost to raise, feed, and care for alpacas? I don't know like the exact number for everything off the top of my head. I wouldn't say alpacas are like a beginner animal to take care of. I usually tell people to start with chickens. There's just costs that will come up that like you don't even like realize. Like for instance, you have to deworm them every month. So needles, syringes, like a nice pooper scooper for them, like the food, like you have to put up fencing, an electric waterer, buckets, fans. You have to get them fans. That bills obviously. And also shearing. You have to get them sheared once a year as well, and like that costs money. Definitely not a beginner animal. Don't buy an alpaca if you don't know your shit. Don't do it. Well, hopefully I've talked enough and answered all of your questions as efficiently as possible. I love talking about yarn and animals and fiber and wool and cleaning the wool. It is just so much fun. And I love it, and I thank you for asking me all these fabulous questions, and I hope you have a fabulous day. I'll see you in my next video.